BioVivacious. I'm Sebastian. BioVivacious is a YouTube channel dedicated to clear fundamentals of biosciences and make the subject exciting. No discussion of carbohydrate metabolism is complete without discussion about alternate pathways to carbohydrate metabolism. It is a very crucial and important pathway. Welcome to another session of a very interesting aspect of carbohydrate metabolism that is called alternate pathways. We have seen over a period of time that glycolytic pathway coupled with the TCA cycle forms the major route for degradation of glucose and also for the production of energy. But other than this glycolysis and TCA cycle, there are many other pathways which helps in degradation of sugar. So these pathways are known as alternate pathways. So there are many alternate pathways. One of the alternate pathway is very popularly known as pentose phosphate pathway. Now remember, this pentose phosphate pathway will occur in all mammalian system as well as plants, etc. Another alternate pathway is glucuronic acid pathway. Glucuronic acid pathway. Now remember, this glucuronic acid pathway is occurring in mammals and in yeast. So it is mainly for for the production of mucopolysaccharides. So it's mainly for that, and also for detoxification reactions. Another alternate pathway for carbohydrate is it's called Entner-Doudoroff pathway. Entner-Doudoroff pathway. Now remember, the Entner-Doudoroff pathway is occurring in microorganisms and in plants. And in the last pathway is what we call it the glyoxylate cycle. So the glyoxylate cycle is a variation of TCA cycle, very similar to TCA cycle. By bypassing a few reactions, that is glyoxylate cycle. So these two pathways, Entner-Doudoroff and glyoxylate, will take place in microorganisms and in plants. So these pathways are commonly known as alternate pathways of carbohydrate metabolism. Let us focus on pentose phosphate pathway. This pathway is known by many different names. One is pentose phosphate pathway, as we have been mentioning it very often. The other name for this pathway is also known as HMP shunt. So hexose monophosphate shunt. Why it is called hexose monophosphate shunt is because this pathway will begin with the glucose 6-phosphate. It begins with the glucose 6-phosphate and it will end with the glucose 6-phosphate. So therefore it is a shunt. That's why it is called HMP shunt. All hexose phosphates are made use in this shunt. So hexose monophosphate shunt. Another very commonly used term for this pathway is it is called phosphogluconate pathway. Phosphogluconate pathway because the first product formed is phosphogluconate. So therefore it is called the phosphogluconate pathway. Another name for this pathway is in honor of the scientists who have discovered this pathway. So the scientists are Warburg, Dickens and Lippmann. So this is also known as Warburg-Dickens-Lippmann pathway. So therefore you see that one pathway is called by many names. Pentose phosphate pathway, and you know that why it is called so. Hexose monophosphate shunt, phosphogluconate pathway and Warburg-Dickens pathway. What is important for us to know is where exactly this pathway occurs in mammalian system. Wherever there are biosynthetic activities, this pathway is highly active. So for example, locations like lactating mammary glands, liver, testes, adipose tissues, RBC, in all these locations this pathway is very, very highly active. And now for example, you know, in this pathway, about 50% of this pathway is active in adipose tissues and RBC. So 50% of this pathway is active in these tissues. Now, if this is 50% is covered. Now PPP. Another 50% of this pathway, how it is distributed? For example, you know, liver is one location where this pathway is active. Liver will have roughly about 5% of this pathway. That is the activity that is shown. Muscle. So it can be the skeletal muscles or the heart muscles. That is another 5% is active here. Then brain is one location where this pathway is highly active, and that is about 10%. You will find that thymus this is about 15% active, and finally in lungs, so I'll write lungs here, 15% it is active. So that makes it the 50%. So therefore, see, all those tissues where it is all biosynthetic activities are happening, this pathway is highly active. We have seen that this pathway is a branch point in the glucose oxidation. So therefore, it is another way to oxidize glucose other than glycolysis. But why so many locations this pathway is highly active? In other words, why do we need this pathway? So you will see that over a period of time, certain end products or intermediates of this pathway, like, you know, one of the intermediates is erythrose 4-phosphate. So you will see that erythrose 4-phosphate is utilized for synthesizing 3 aromatic amino acids like phenylalanine, tryptophan, and tyrosine. So it is used for synthesizing amino acids. And whenever we consume excess amount of excess pentoses, when we consume excess pentose in our diet, so that is metabolized by using this pathway. You will also see that another end product of this pathway is ribose 5-phosphate. So ribose 5-phosphate is the starting material for nucleic acid synthesis. You see the significance why this pathway is very important. And another important aspect is this is one pathway that will produce a lot of NADPH. And you know that NADPH is needed for several biosynthetic reactions. So therefore, like fatty acid synthesis, etc., for biosynthetic reactions, this is the start. This is the main source of NADPH. So you will see that this pathway has a lot of significance. So keeping this in mind, let us understand how exactly, what is the general mechanism of this pathway. Before we actually focus on the main reactions of pentose phosphate pathway, let us just focus on the main functions. So one of the intermediate it produces NADPH. You see that NADPH has got several functions in the body, like maintenance of oxidation reduction reactions, provide reducing equivalents for many pathways, to maintain a reducing environment in a cell, etc. So this NADPH is highly used for fatty acid synthesis. You will see that in those tissues like liver, adipose tissues, mammary glands, so this pathway becomes very highly active for fatty acid synthesis. You will also see that NADPH is needed for cholesterol synthesis. So therefore, organs like liver, adrenal cortex, skin, intestine, gonads, this pathway is highly active. PPP becomes very highly active. Another important function is to synthesize steroid hormones. So therefore, adrenal cortex, gonads, this pathway becomes highly active. Catecholamines is another its NADPH is required for the synthesis of catecholamine. So therefore, adrenal medullae, this you will find this PPP becoming highly active. Another important function is, we will be looking at it in detail, so that is to ensure that a reducing atmosphere is maintained in a cell, especially locations like RBC, cornea, okay, and in phagocytic cells, because they will be producing a lot of free radicals. So to deal with these free radicals, a reducing atmosphere is maintained with the help of NADPH. Another important area that we need to highlight is one of the intermediate is ribose 5-phosphate. So ribose 5-phosphate is mainly used for nucleic acid synthesis. So therefore you will see that it is highly active in bone marrow, skin, gastric mucosa, etc. So this will give you an understanding of how important is this pentose phosphate pathway.